I think we should start. We should do the picture right after.
Oh my goodness, that's ridiculous.
Isn't it amazing? I know. It just,
And there's another girl that's been trying to get into school.
yeah, they want to line the show.
Out there really sunning and making it professional.
Well,
We
we're
do.
trying. So we should get joined up and get just past them.
Keep up the fight.
I'm going to bring them all up.
We won't give up on it.
I'm very proud of you. There's a lot of us.
Keep an eye on that camera.
The same way.
We'll keep
I want to, let's get a
You ready to
photo.
get started?
Let's get a photo now quickly if you want to come, because I'm trying to.
Sure,
And if you have your books, no, we can just do it here. Let's get everybody up. Come on, Kathy. Let's get everybody up. I thought we did it now.
Thank you, Bob.
So we're going to announce the panelists. Can you hear me? We can hear you. Oh, there it is. This is your microphone.
The one with the bus, like.
Well, I'm not Pat Kramer, obviously. I'm Karen Kramer.
Yeah, Karen!
It belongs to these wonderful people who made this film. And it always amazes me and always makes me so happy that Kat always manages to get a great turnout for her events because they are important, very important. And tonight, I think this film is even more important than anything she's presented to us before. This year happens to be Stanley Kramer's centennial. And probably this is part of the centennial as well. And Kat wanted to honor her father by showing this film. As you know, he made only socially conscious films. He made 35 of them. It's not easy. There's not that much money in it either, I have to tell you. It's an uphill battle all the way. And I think that's why he's being rediscovered, because it was never about money. It was always about the subject, the story. And he used film as a tool to fight against all injustice that we're not addressing. Man's inhumanity to man, man's inhumanity to animals, excessive abuse of power, civil rights, all these films that he made, 35 of them. On the Beach is my favorite Stanley Kramer film. That sounds so strange. There were so many other films that marked the marriage of our 35 years, and this film I saw before I ever met Stanley Kramer. But it was so stunning. And you know, it makes me happy that there's so many activists here tonight, because we certainly need you. We need you now. With On the Beach, when Stanley made the film from the novel by Neville Shute, and his daughter is with us tonight. I'm so proud of that. He didn't just premiere it here. He chose December the 7th, which of course was Pearl Harbor, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, to debut this film. And not just here, but in every major city of every major country in one night. Now, we had in those days, and some of you will remember this, the younger people probably never heard of it, but we used to have the March of Time in theaters. That was our CNN in those days. On the Beach, and the opening night on December the 7th, had made it a March of Time in the theaters, but it also had kings, queens, heads of state coming out all in one night to see that film. And that film started disarmament talks at the United Nations. I'm proud of her. Stanley had 4 children. They're all terrific. But she's the only one of the 4 that has stepped up to the plate and said, I want to follow in my small way in my father's footsteps and try to make a difference. Let's give my mom a round of applause.
to hold this
But
if I can.
she's never been in one of the films that I premiered, and she's never been on the panel or spoken, so this for me is just an amazing way to get back to my family, having this film here tonight. Now, we've got to get started because we have a couple of very special guest speakers. But I wanted to acknowledge that we have a lot of wonderful hosts that are here tonight that are on the host committee, and all of them came. Thank you so much. We have a power panel that's going to follow after the film, and I want to acknowledge the panelists first, and then we'll get started. We have, obviously, Dr. Helen Caldicott. And someone who supported my series for a long time and been such an amazing influence, Tomlin. The incredible Rick O'Berry from The Cove. I'm sure you all know who he is, and that was the second film that I had in the series. And I have to say that, if you remember this, Rick, we had it like a week before the Academy Awards, right here at Sunset Bronson, actually near this lot. And all the filmmakers flew out. It was like right before the Academy Awards. But unfortunately, Rick, fortunately, he was in Taiji at the time doing his work, but he was unable to come for the premiere of The Cove that we had. So he's here tonight, and we want to welcome you. Thank you so much for coming. Incredible actor, you all know Louis Gossett Jr. Another Heather Mayfield and Donna Anderson. And I want to bring up someone who really needs no introduction, but I have to say, and I mentioned her earlier as being such a supporter, she means a lot to me and to my family. And you all know her as a legendary, and she hates it when I say that, and I'm going to say it anyway, legendary performer, a writer, a producer, comedian. I know her as a awe-inspiring activist and human being. She happens to be a great friend of Dr. Helen Caldicott, and she also received the Dr. Helen Caldicott Leadership Award. So she's going to tell you about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Lily Tomlin.
I have the great privilege and honor not only to know Helen, but to introduce her here tonight. I met her in the early 70s. She brought to this country and to the world, really, I think, the first real awareness of what nuclear war and nuclear reactors and energy and nuclear waste, what it meant to this planet. And I've worked with her many times at rallies and fundraisers and trying to bring awareness to more and more people. And so what I'm always amazed by is someone of Helen's incredible insight and intelligence and passion is that, first of all, as a kid, from the time she was a kid in Australia, let me warn you that you may not be able to understand every word, because she is Australian. In fact, we were talking about methane earlier today, and she called it methane. Just to give you like a little flag out of the periscope. So anyway, so she, when she was a kid, she wanted to be a teacher until she was still a young girl. And then she read Neville Shute's book On the Beach, and then shortly after that, she saw Sharpe-Kramer's film On the Beach, and she lived. I mean, she was an Australian citizen, and she was living in Melbourne. And the last scene in On the Beach shows the devastation of the planet, and all the people are gone, there's no more life. So she was profoundly affected by this film, and that's what really fed this drive and passion and commitment of hers to spread the world, to do something about ridding the planet of nuclear energy, mostly armaments. She's written 9 books. She went to medical school, became a pediatrician. She married a doctor, they had 3 children. At another point, she came back to the States, and between 65 and 69, she was living in Boston. And this was a part of our U.S. culture where Bobby Kennedy was killed, Martin Luther King was killed, there was the anti-Vietnam War movement. So many things were going on that further she's inspired. Okay, this woman She wanted to start in Adelaide, back in Australia. She studied to be a pediatrician, and she was going to create an absolute cystic fibrosis clinic for children at the Children's Hospital. Well, there's no way. She's written 9 books. She's toured the world. She's tireless in this. I am so always thrilled by her. Plus, she has a great sense of humor, and she's wonderfully funny. And I said, well, Helen, I don't think you've done enough with your life. And I said, you know, why don't you be a concert pianist too, or something like that? And she said, well, I do play the clarinet. There's no way to talk to her. You have to know, you have to read about Helen and see what she's capable of and what she has been dauntless in for 4 decades at least that I know of. And I think to myself, when does she sleep? Does she have like one of those filofaxes like we used to have, that you write where you're going? And in my filofax, it might have said like, go to, Bed Bath and Beyond, you get a list. And hers, it says, change the world, going to speak with world leaders. And I'm so eager to hear from her tonight. And it gives me great pleasure for her to be introduced to some of you for the first time, maybe, and some of you probably know her very well and care for her as much as I do. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Helen Caldicott.